Like, it take a real motherfucker to get sober.
Entrepreneurship is a mindset. It's not necessarily what you do. Because I promise you, if you're doing it for the right reasons, you will be okay.
What do we know about trauma scientifically? It changes the chemistry in the brain.
We can relate to one another, you know. That's why this camaraderie is so awesome, because we just get it and we don't judge.
You can't fight new battles with old tactics. Your thoughts become your words become your actions become your character becomes your destiny.
What do you want to be remembered by when you're gone? What's Grounded, fam? It's your boy Johnny Gio. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Grounded Phoenix podcast. As always, the purpose of this channel is to express vulnerability and expand awareness to addiction, trauma, and mental health. My guest for today is Paige. What's Grounded, Paige?
Hey, grounded today. Good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm so excited to talk to you, and I'm glad we got over these technical difficulties we were having. But dude, I was like, oh no, like having you on here and just talking to you, not in person, but I guess through this app we're using, it definitely beats just like sending a DM and, you know, a comment section. Like you really get a chance to like experience the other person's vibe and their energy. And I'm glad to have you on.
Yes, thank you. I'm so glad to be here. It's been a pleasure even watching all of your other podcasts. So thanks for asking to have me. So,
of course, yes, I'm really excited to have you on. There's a lot of things we're going to be talking about. One thing that you really wanted to touch base on is, you know, letting people know that they're not alone, and also to be able to find the courage to reach out to people. And everybody's journey looks different, although there is some similarities, in which I think is very important to look at the similarities rather than the differences. But before we get into all that, I'd like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, maybe talk about how much time you have alcohol free and sober, and a little bit about yourself.
yeah. So as of today, I'm 686 days alcohol free.
That's amazing.
March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, I decided to give up.
That's right.
Yeah, alcohol completely. I'm a single mother of two, so it's definitely, I feel so much better. My kids are happier. My entire home, it's just a better energy, I feel like. In regards to you know, you're not alone, it's very true. I remember when I first decided to like venture into the sober community through Instagram, you know, just reaching out to strangers is kind of hard. It's difficult. But especially reaching out to strangers for help in regards to addiction. I remember the first girl I talked to, complete stranger from Colorado, super helpful. I think that's the main thing. Anyone struggling with addiction, if there's not a family member, because that's where we always start with to reach out to, it doesn't have to be a family member. Like, leave that aside and get someone close, and a friend, or go to our sober community through Instagram has been like a game changer for my recovery, especially in the beginning. So,
right on. Yeah, very well said. I agree. I was actually really against social media, like prior to getting, you know, involved with the community. For some reason, you know, I had the mentality of like, you know, social media is like a waste of time and like it's a distraction. But you know, the more sober time that I got, and the more I realized how important it is to be of service and try to give back, I really started having a change of heart, because I noticed how much of a connection I have to people. I think that if you're using social media to be productive and to be of service, or to find a support system in a sense, compared to, you know, mindlessly scrolling through stuff, even though I still am guilty of that because I'm not perfect, I think it's a great platform to start off with, to find, you know, a connection with somebody, or to reach out and find somebody that can help you with certain things. Now, social media wasn't like the only way that I achieved sobriety, and I maintained my abstinence from alcohol and drugs. Like, what what is other methods that helped you cope with staying sober?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was a lot of social media, and I was just like you. I remember posting like once a month on my Instagram before, and it was like just like out in the park with my kids or something. And I used to think that too, like, does everyone really need to see me and my kids at the park? But after reaching out through Instagram, it's completely different because we're all kind of on the same page. But when it comes to other ways, so I didn't go to AA. I didn't go to rehab. I had a big hit rock bottom, we'll say, March 1st. And then that's why March 17th was I had relapse, we'll say. But I do have a life coach I talk to biweekly. If their coaching is amazing. I had a better result with a coach versus a counselor because they give you homework. They give you these tasks to do. So outside of just sobriety, I mean, I've stepped up in different areas of my life too, having a coach. So I use a coach, and then that's really it. I have coach, and then Instagram. I mean, you're one of them. I reached out to you. I think awesome. It's a strong ass community that we all know what we're going through, regardless if you've been to jail or not, or went to rehab or not, or AA or not. Like sometimes it works for people and sometimes it just doesn't. So, yeah, that's what I do.
Right on. Do you want to share like one of the tasks that your coach, maybe asked you to do or a homework, just because, maybe don't give their entire secrets away, but just a little something that really helped you, like an assignment per se?
Yeah, so I do a lot of public speaking for my work. So this kind of ties together, but if I was drinking, I would have definitely wanted to like take a couple shots or something before I spoke. So it would like calm you out, but obviously you can't do that. So I presented this challenge I had of public speaking and my anxiety. I mean, I could feel my heartbeat in my toes. It was so crazy. And just with drinking, it made it worse. But in my mind, I thought it was making it better. Anyway, so I have a male life coach also, if that matters. But basically, there's no reason to not express like how you're feeling. So I stood up in front of these people and said, hey, I am very nervous. So if my face gets red or whatever the case may be, just that's showing that I care. And I said that, and everyone kind of like caught him off guard. But after that, like, I was totally fine, like completely fine. So it's like, there's no rules for life. Like there's a ton of rules life has, but there's no need to hide like how you're feeling, regardless of who you're in front of. If it's C-level people, business, whatever the case may be. So it was just like presenting how I was feeling. I said it out loud, and like that was like it. So
wow,
it was awkward because it was awkward, but it definitely helped. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know for a fact that I hate public speaking, or at least I used to. Now I'm getting pretty good at it actually, but even just being in front of the camera for me was just like, holy crap. Like I can't stand the sound of my voice. I can't stand the way I look. I don't even make sense some of the time. So it's like, I think just expressing, even if it's like recording or whatever, just letting yourself know like, hey, it's okay. Like I'm probably not good at this right now, but I know I'll get better. And if you have an audience, just letting them know, hey, I'm excited. Or instead of saying like nervous, because I feel like being nervous and excitement is almost the same feeling, except if you express it differently, it kind of mind fucks you to say like, holy shit, I'm not nervous, I'm excited, let's fucking do this shit, so I think kind of changing the way, or the way you say the things to yourself will definitely help. At least for me that works. So I know you have 4 kids, right? You're dog mom, and you got 2 boys. Let me just clarify that.
Yes. Yes. I have 2 human babies and 2 fur babies.
Yeah, same with me. I have 2 boys, 2 human babies, and 2 fur babies. What were you drinking when your kids when you still had your kids, or were you sober at that point?
No, I wish I was sober at that point, but unfortunately I was not. I did not drink when I was pregnant, but as soon as I had the baby, both of my boys, my ex, he and I mean, our relationship was alcohol. Like, unfortunately, that's we both agree to this day. Like, that's how it started, and that unfortunately that's how it ended too. But it didn't get bad, we'll say, until my youngest was born, probably a few months after, where I was like, this is not okay. Like, I could have a glass of wine and just be so not myself. Like crabby. So I don't know if it had to do a lot with pregnancy and my second baby, but yeah, after each baby and even breastfeeding, oh my gosh, I spent so much time breastfeeding, pumping and dumping all the milk that had alcohol in it. It was just, it's gross. To say the least, because people buy breast milk, and I literally was dumping breast milk out because it had alcohol in it. So, yeah, it wasn't until my now 5-year-old turned 3 is when I asked their father to leave, and that's when he entered rehab because he had alcohol problems. And I was going to his rehab and being the family member there, but I deep down I was going through the same thing, just not as severe at that time. And then, yeah, it was a couple months that I needed it, or I was shaky. I always had a glass of wine or something with me. So,
wow, that's pretty intense. So similar to you, I was in a relationship with my kid's mother who, you know, she liked to party, and so did I. But once I stopped drinking and she continued to drink, we started growing apart. And that's when I realized, okay, it's not just the partying and the alcohol. It's, you know, we don't really have anything in common anymore. And it's like, if we're not growing together, we're literally growing apart. So I had to make probably one of the most difficult decisions I've ever had to make was to leave, because I grew up in a household where my mom and my stepdad, he was sleeping on the couch. And for me to watch that as a kid, I didn't want that for my own kids, right? And I was already going down that route. Mm-hmm. Now, what made it difficult was that I never met my biological father, so I felt like I was gonna be just like him. You know, I wasn't gonna see them anymore, and you know, I was gonna detach from them. So how hard was it for you to ask him to leave, or was there anything hard about that for you? And even not leaving the relationship, but like the fact that you guys bonded through alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shit show. How we even started, I got pregnant, it wasn't planned, and I would never take anything back in regards to meeting him or having our kids. Like, he today is like an amazing spot. He's sober he's 6 months ahead of me. So we're like right there. But I was amazing. The same with you. I made it in a personal impact or personal pact with myself that before my oldest turns 3 and it doesn't get better between their dad and I, that I was going to he has to leave. I didn't have family. I have 0 family where I'm at right now. So I had to plan accordingly, not because I was scared that like my ex was going to hurt me or anything, but I didn't have any big person support. I just had my baby. So it was really hard. But the amount of things my body was going through, having a newborn and a toddler, 3 dogs at the time. I'm a working career woman. I mean, had a lot going on. And I went to counseling because I thought it was me. I thought it was something I was doing that maybe he just didn't like or whatever, but it just was progressively getting worse. And his drinking was getting worse, but I didn't know that. So was it hard? Yes, it was so hard. But I remember telling him, maybe not that night, a couple weeks later before he entered rehab, is, you know, I'm not doing this because of you or I. Like, our boys need to see love, not this bullshit, live in the same house, live in separate rooms. Like, he understands that now, because I was like you. My parents did not display love like I wish they did. And it's a learned behavior, and I don't want my boys to learn that. So I'd rather them see me as a single, hard-ass working mother than having their dad here and us live completely separate. It's just not, you know, that's not normal in my mind.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. What is a few things that you are the most grateful for now that, you know, you have almost 2 years sober, alcohol free?
I would say control. So every response I have, I'm in control of it, whether it's my kid chucking something at the TV. I have control of getting mad or like not getting mad. When I was drunk, I would just get mad. You know, like I didn't have a brain. I wasn't thinking. Control is the biggest one. I think being aware too. Control and aware. So aware of, well, we're parents. So as a parent, you know, I want to be aware of everything that's going on, but control goes into it too. So I'm aware they're playing with Play-Doh on the floor. I don't necessarily want that, but okay, Paige, step back. You have control. You let them be kids for a couple minutes and then get to it. Whereas when you're drunk, you're just not there. You don't, there's a disconnect. It's like we're all walking without heads.
Yeah, no, very well said.
So
I used to
those would be the two.
I feel that. Right on. I agree. I can get, I mean, still to this day, I can be somewhat impulsive when I lose my patience. But before, if it was me before, you know, like I probably wouldn't even be spending as much time as I do with them than I do now, because we pretty much do everything together when I do have them. And, you know, what I like about that is that I can teach, not only like just teach them the things that I wish I would have learned when I was a kid on how to be a man, but also, you know, letting them make the mistakes and kind of allowing them to kind of figure it out and not giving them the full answers, just so that they can learn to problem solve themselves. But
right.
All right, so recovery looks differently for everybody, right? And I think that's one of the most important things that I've noticed in the recovery community, that, you know, some people say alcohol free, some people say, hey, I'm sober, some people say, hey, like I'm sober and I'm clean. Like, what do you identify as? And like, do you have any issues with people in the recovery community? Do you think there's a stigma, or is it something that it's like, hey, you know, everybody just kind of gets along?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I used to kind of think about this a little bit more than today, because I think alcohol is the one drug you have to have an excuse to not use. I remember if I didn't drink going out, like just by choice, say I was actually the DD, which never happened back in the day, but if I didn't drink, she must be pregnant. Like, she's having another baby. Like, it gets to that point. Like, if I'm not drinking at a wedding just because I don't feel like it, someone's going to ask if I'm pregnant. So I think saying sober and alcohol free is it's hard to determine, like, does sober mean you're alcohol free, or does sober, do the drugs and pills fall under this sober word, you know? So I say alcohol free, because that's the drug that I fell under, with addiction. So I say alcohol free, but I say sober too. I mean, I put alcohol in the sober category. So, yeah, I kind of say both.
Yeah,
I think it's how you
same.
say it too, especially like in a sober, like a post.
Right.
I think how like the caption and stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
It's like we just have a lot to say about this topic. I think that it's kind of complex, really, because there's so many programs out there. You kind of don't want to either offend or you don't want to take away from like their way of thinking. But one thing I've just really learned is that, you know, everybody's journey is so personal, and just however you feel and whatever your journey is, you know, own it and you know, stay true to it. Because I think the first 2 years I was alcohol free and sober, and I still call it sober because technically if you look up the definition for sober, it's being abstinence from alcohol. So I call it sober. I was smoking weed. The first 2 years, but like I swear, like I would be damned if I took away those 2 years. Now I have 6 years and a half. So like for me, I would still like to add those 2 years, even though somebody that's from a different program would say, well, those 2 years don't count. Well, I'm not in your program, so they do count for me. You get what I'm saying? So by saying that, it's not to throw any shade. It's just to tell people, you know, like, own your story, be true to yourself, and just know that it's such a personal journey, and not to get too caught up in like all the labels and what other people have to say, and just kind of take what helps and leave what doesn't, right?
Right. And judgment free. I think the strongest, I mean, I've met a lot of strong people that have never been in addiction, so praise them. But the people that have came out and voiced about their addiction and they are sober or they're alcohol free or whatever anyone wants to call it, there's no reason to judge people. The people that are reaching out and trying to better themselves and then promoting their new life on a social media platform is freaking awesome. That shit should be on the news, not cats getting murdered and dogs being put in the trash can. Like, there's a limited amount of space for us sober people, alcohol free, drug free, whatever you want to call it. Everyone should just like be courteous and like let people share what they want to share. It's not like any of us are experts. I mean, you have 6.5 years. I'm almost 2. We could have a friend that's 13 years, but is still struggling in certain areas. We're not. So it's like, that's the one thing I don't like about social media. I personally haven't experienced it, thankfully, but it's some of the negative stuff. And it's usually, you know, like these newer sober folks that have a year under their belt, and people that are 15 years sober, like, oh, why are you promoting it? But it's like, come on, there's so much negative. We're actually trying to do the better and promote like what our life is better now since being sober. It's like, there's no need time for it. Block.
Right, exactly. But I think the longer I spend in this recovery community, I think like the less I'm seeing of that. But I just wanted to bring that up just because, you know, in case you do get caught up in that controversy, or like don't get sucked into it, you know, like just let people be, let them, you know, enjoy their journey for what it is. And, you know, who knows, something that they might have to say can relate to somebody, you know, and same goes for you. Something, whatever you have to say, you know, like voice your opinion, voice your struggle, voice your triumph. And, you know, eventually it's going to help somebody. Like you said, like this stuff should be on the news, not other stuff, like negative stuff that's out there. But, all right, Paige, I want to thank you for your time. But before I let you go, I do have to ask you the signature question to the podcast. Are you ready for the question?
Yes.
All right. So I believe there's 3 things that are guaranteed in life, and they're actually marked in our gravestone. That is our birthday, the day we pass, and the dash in the middle that represents the life we led. What do you want to be remembered by when you're gone?
Ooh, that's a question. When I'm gone, I want to remembered that she gave it her 100% all in everything that she's thrived in.